Hey guys, it's Ethan. Welcome to Philosophy Fridays. So I say to start these things with a question, so that's what I'm gonna do. Where does our morality come from? Just to be clear, this is not a new question or even a 21st century question for that matter. I bring that up just because before I started researching this, I really thought it was a new question. Boy, was I wrong. So since I'm what you would call a Westerner, let's start with Socrates. For those who don't know, Socrates was an ancient Greek philosopher who lived around 2,500 years ago. Socrates believed that people should strive to attain the good itself rather than just do good things. Socrates also said people should be good, like the sun is good to the earth. The sun brings heat and light to the earth. People should bring knowledge and virtue to those who don't have it. The problem with that logic is the Greeks use this to justify, like, wars, you know? These guys don't have knowledge and virtue, we should, give it to them forcefully. And the Greeks weren't exactly pinnacles of morality. Aristotle believed that slaves were born to be slaves. That's not moral. Also, the Greeks were extremely sexist, so they probably didn't get their morals from the good itself. Let's move on. Thomas Aquinas lived during the Middle Ages and was a Catholic priest. Aquinas theorized a principle known as natural laws. Natural laws is a system where morality comes from God itself, therefore you have to believe in God to be moral. It states that laws are handed down from God, and those laws are absolute. That's all I'm going to say for now, but we'll come back to that one later. Finally, we're going to talk about Kantian versus utilitarian ethics. Okay, so these theories are commonly juxtaposed, and that's how we're going to look at them today. I will also remind you that these theories are really complicated, and I try my best to, understand them and even dumb them down, but I'm probably going to get a lot of stuff wrong, so, bear with me. Okay, so broadly, the theory of utilitarianism goes that if an action or lack of action will make the net happiness higher, the action is moral. So there's some glaring problems with utilitarianism, but we'll come back to those in a second. On the other end, Kantian ethics is much more personal, believing strongly in what Kant called categorical imperatives. Categorical imperatives are basically a command that for a person to be moral, they must follow. For example, if someone lends me money, I have an obligation to pay back that money regardless of the circumstances. Kantian ethics also believes that if a person had good intentions, regardless of the outcome, they can still be considered moral, which is unique. And to determine if you had good intentions, you have to ask yourself two questions. 1. Can I rationally will that everyone will act as I will act in this situation? 2. Do my actions respect the goals of human beings, or am I going to be using human beings to further my own goals? If you answer no to any of these questions, you do not have good intentions, as far as the theory goes. So the big difference between Kantian versus utilitarianism is intention over consequence. You can't see, but I'm moving my hands back and forth to, display that. In utilitarianism, your intentions do not matter as long as the outcome gains a net positive. In Kantianism, if you had good intentions but made a bad choice, it could still be considered moral. Now we're going to talk about the major problems of both the ethical theories here. In utilitarianism, making a few lives worse to make the net positive would be considered a moral act, but there are a couple bad examples. For example, in Rome, you could argue that Caesar, forcing all these people to die in the, fighting arena for the majority of the population, could be moral because only a few lives were lost and the net happiness went up. Hope we can agree that having some men fight to the death for others' entertainment is just not moral in any way. You could also use utilitarianism for some more terrible things as well, like justifying slavery, for example. By the way, there'll be links in the description for that one. It'll be source 1. You can also get it right here. Unlike utilitarianism, Kantian theory cannot justify things like slavery, but there are still some glaring issues with it. One big problem with it was Kant did not take any personal feelings into account when he made his theory. Okay, let's get some examples to help explain this. Okay, so let's say your mother and a random stranger were drowning in a lake. If you went in to save your mother over the stranger, Kantian theory could not determine if that was more or less moral. Okay, I think it's important to remember these are theories on where our morals come from, so if they can't explain a situation, they are falsified. One more example that's a bit extreme is say you have a friend who's a Jew and you're living in Nazi Germany in 1944. If the SS came knocking on your door asking where your friend was, and Kantian theory was true, you should tell them because it's immoral to lie. But you probably wouldn't tell him because you cared for your friend's well-being and you didn't want him to be tortured. This is a major flaw with Kantianism and makes it inaccurate as a moral theory in whole. Okay guys, thanks for watching part 1 on our history of moral ethics. Stay tuned for part 2 coming soon. Bye.
History is made by stupid people. Clever people wouldn't even try. If you want a place in the history books, then do something dumb before you die.